Erik Stover, welcome to Sports Management Podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
It's great to have you on the show. You have worked for 25 plus years in the sports industry in and around US soccer teams. So, how do you see the state of soccer in the US today versus when you started?
Wow, this is a massive, extremely critical time in the history of soccer in the United States. Obviously, the World Cup, it's the biggest event in the world. It'll be the biggest event, uh, biggest World Cup that's ever been, not just by the number of teams, but the scope of the landscape, Mexico, United States, Canada. It's just a huge, huge tournament, loads of money, a lot of political issues going on across the planet at this time. And then, of course, the landscape of soccer is changing dramatically in the United States. The rules are different. There's opportunity now for folks that didn't have it in the past. So 2026 arguably will be the most important year in the history of soccer in the United States.
Definitely, and it's continued to grow and get more publicity. I mean, you have the big sports with the baseball, what we call American football, ice hockey, and so forth. So, do you see soccer competing with these other major sports?
Yeah, they already do, and soccer, football has for a long time in the United States, um, especially the last 20 years. The big clubs, Real Madrid, Manchester United, the Champions League, Liga MX here. Those clubs, those national teams, those tournaments have been hugely popular here for a long, long time. Um, it probably doesn't capture the attention of um, the sporting landscape and the fans as much as, well, definitely not as much as American football, the NBA, but I think soccer has been up there, surpassed hockey a long time ago with total number of fans, however you define that, and probably has passed baseball as well, especially in younger demos. So, look, it's been a massive, massive sport here for a long time. We just have to figure out how to do it well to capture the hearts and minds of people on a club level. And also, the men's national team has not been performing at a level we would expect for many decades. So I think those two things are extremely important, and those two things are going to be forever altered in 2026.
Interesting. So obviously the women's team have performed very well on a national team level for many, many years. But as you said, the men's has not so much. So how important is it that the men's team perform well now in the World Cup for the interest to grow more in the US?
In this country, it's always important that our national teams do well in whatever sport it is. And if we don't, it hurts a lot. Um, you pick the sport. I mean, if curling can capture everybody's hearts and minds in this country if we have a team that's doing well and might win a medal. We love competition. We love big tournaments. Um, so the men performing well would be an added bonus. I honestly, we'll see what happens. I don't think we're positioned well to do well in the tournament. You never know. We've always had the fighting spirit, so maybe um, the results will come just through grit and determination and home field advantage. But as far as a soccer standpoint, I don't think we're in a position to do well relative to France and Spain and Germany, England, Brazil, Argentina. We just don't line up well against them. But you never know. Again, home field advantage. We'll see what happens.
Definitely. And maybe the expectation is for, not for them to win, but to maybe to go to quarterfinals or somewhere along those lines would be seen as a success, I assume.
Yeah, definitely. I would like to see us not only go to the quarterfinals, but we've gone to the quarterfinals in the past just by the nature of the sport. You know, um, getting out of the group with only one win and winning that one game by 1-0. It's sort of, if you count up the World Cup victories over the last 30 years, there's not a lot. Um, and I think the when we turn the corner, you'll start seeing more outright victories and better overall play and less of, getting through on a 1-1-1 record in the group. Um, so that's the kind of stuff I hope to see with this tournament that we turn the corner on.
Interesting. And how important is it to, continue the momentum? Because as you said, like when US competes on something on a national team level, everyone gets behind it. So it's gonna be a huge hype during the time of the World Cup. But when the World Cup is over, how can you piggyback off that success and, for grassroots level, get more to play soccer, get more people to watch soccer, to come to the games? Where do you think the success factor is there?
Um, well, again, the fans are already doing that. They're already playing at huge numbers, not just registered players, but in urban areas. I'm in San Diego at the moment, normally New York metropolitan area. But if you just turn up to a park in either one of these cities, just dozens and dozens and dozens of people playing soccer. And it's been like that for a long time. So really, for me, I think it's critical to make a grassroots connection, a community connection that's authentic and long term. Um, we are a fickle country, and we do focus, I would say, too much on the immediate gratification and not building a stronger foundation with the community and with your club and your club's identity. So, look, again, this is on us as a national team and as club owners and operators. We have to do better at that, and we've seen over the last 10 years in particular, clubs do exceptionally well with that. And I think that's what really matters because again, the kids are playing, the families are there, they love the sport, people love the sport, they're watching it. We just have to do better on a grassroots level domestically.
That's an interesting take. And I've always thought that when you watch more of, call them American sports, so baseball, American football, the structure of the game it's shorter gameplays. So in American football, you you play for like a minute or something, then there is a break, you go off, people go in and out the stadiums, they grab something to drink, something to eat, while soccer is more like 45 minutes play non-stop, break
Right.
45 minutes. So it doesn't, in my mind, fit very well into the American way of sports, but it seems like it's still really, really popular.
Yeah, it's an interesting take, and I could flip it around, but I'll take your point of view first. Commercially, that it's an issue, and in this country, owners in leagues have struggled to understand it and commercialize it properly. So you do have um, a lack of understanding when you don't have 30-second ads to drop into a broadcast. How do you make money? Um, but I would say that it's the other way around. The other way around is the opportunity. People's attention spans are shrinking, right? And we're a TikTok nation, and kids are flipping through 15, 10-second, even faster through videos. And um, what soccer gives you is that window hasn't changed in 150 years. It's 2 hours. It's been 2 hours, 2 hours. American football, baseball. NBA, those games go on and on and on and on and on, and it gets the play gets broken up constantly with ads. And just having kids, my daughter loves sports, but she can't sit down and watch a whole game. It's just the distractions are too much. For soccer, it gives you a chance to put your phone down and just pay attention for 45 minutes, break, and then another 45 minutes. And I think that in a lot of ways plays into our changing culture better than the constant barrage of commercial messages and um, breaks. And but the NFL is peak right now. The playoffs have been fantastic. It's hard to imagine there a time where that ever gets supplanted. It's just a great product all around. But I do think soccer has its space, and if we look at it in the right way, we'll continue to improve.
Interesting. And if we dive into your work, what you do now, you are the CEO of New York Cosmos. So can you tell us a little bit about the team and the league that you're playing?
Yes, so we're the Cosmos. The provenance, the ownership of the Cosmos over the last 50 years is clear. We know who's owned it all the way through. Um, it is a very American soccer story, though. The ups and downs, the leagues folding, the lawsuits, all very much American sport and American soccer. Um, but this is the original, the authentic Cosmos. And as the Cosmos began in the early 70s, it's a grassroots approach, it's a neighborhood approach, it's a cosmopolitan cultural approach. Um, and we're bringing it back in an environment that fits that very well. And for the first time, we have our own stadium. We've never had our own stadium. We have that now, and it's a place that we can build and grow our club. We play in USL League One, and that's the third tier of soccer in America. But it's like the World Cup coming, like having a stadium. It's a unique moment in time. All these things are coming together uh, at the same time that it's a game changer for us, and that's USL is going to introduce promotion or relegation in American sport for the first time ever, professional American sport. So that gives us a chance to move up. And the USL will be very likely launching a first division league, so a league that's sanctioned the same as MLS. So within the USL system, in a few years, we could be, in theory, playing first division soccer, wearing the Cosmos crest, launching a women's team, launching a number of other sports and activities. And that was not possible even 5 years ago. So to be in a position to do that now is great for us, but it also is great for our community. We can have a real positive impact, both commercially and in the community. But it gives our fans hope. They know that we can grow. They know that we can do more. And that I think is what's so great about this sport in the rest of the world.
Exactly, and the promotion relegation part is so important, and it's been obviously in Europe for a long time. But as you said, that gives clubs something to strive towards. You have belief that you can get higher, and then, as you said, then expand your club to have a bigger youth organization, get the women's club going, and that's huge.
Yeah. Um, the club concept is something we don't really have here in professional sports, really at all. People used to throw the word around, but not what it actually means. It's a word and not an action. For us, its words. Our tagline is Community Club Cosmos, um, but we're also backing that up with our actions every day. And it's really about building a membership where people feel connected 365 days out of the year. It's the organization that they go to for after school programs. It's the organization they go to watch matches, to gather together and watch road matches. Um, to be introduced to new cultural activities. All of those things are what we're working on every day. And the clubs around the world have done that so well. And having the opportunity to work with clubs like Schalke and Eintracht Frankfurt, you see that true community or member concept. And I think we've sort of lost our ways, even in global football, lost our way in over commercialization, and losing that identity. I think in Germany they still do it um, better than really. I don't want to say, I don't want to compare countries or leagues. They, they're still authentic and they're still true to that. Um, Even though a club like Bayern Munich is massive, it's still very much part of their identity. And I think we can learn a lot from that, and we're trying to borrow those ideas in everything we're doing.
Mm. Yeah, it's an interesting time for sure. And you mentioned you have the arena going, and you were overseeing the construction and operation of that project, right?
I didn't oversee it, no,
Oh,
but
okay.
I did consult on it.
Mm.
And Baye Adolfo Wilson, our managing partner, he's the one that really saved the stadium. I mean, projects like that always bring in hundreds of people that contribute, but he was the driving force. And we met 4 or 5 years ago, and it was clear to me that his number one goal was, first of all, to make this a commercially successful stadium, to have a positive impact on North Jersey and Patterson in particular, but that the most important tool in that was going to be professional soccer. And it took us some time to get there, but my role going back a few years ago was to ensure that we could do that, that we had a facility that we could put professional soccer in. So the field lights, for example, are rated to the level of foot candles you need to have HDTV. That wouldn't necessarily get done without that in your mind 5 years ago. Um, Video board. The field is all green. There aren't inlaid American football lines or whatever. We could put football goalposts up and down, and have a American football game on a Friday and a soccer game on a Saturday, and it looks like those sports and only those sports. And I think that's essential to our growth, because when you look around the United States, that's rare. You can see in a lot of facilities that it doesn't shift from one sport to another well, and that hurts the overall match play. At the end of the day, your product isn't as good as it could be, um, and it hurts the fan experience. So really, the credit goes to Baye to have that vision to put us in a situation to be successful now.
Mm. Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I mean, you have been in, as I said in the beginning, in soccer for 25 years and been around on the club level. So you've also been managing director of Red Bull New York and COO. So how has your journey been like working for the different teams?
Yeah, it's been a very interesting career for me, and I did not see it going this way at all when I started. And it's again ironic that I'm here in San Diego, because when I was living in San Diego with my wife, we didn't have any kids at the time. I was managing Qualcomm Stadium, so stadium manager. And we left San Diego to go back to New York for Red Bull and for Red Bull Arena. And that's where my career changed quite a bit. And I did not grow up playing soccer. It was not a sport. It was not on my radar where I grew up. Um, but it has been life altering for me. I've been all over the world because of it, and that would not have happened otherwise. And it's become my passion. It's become this really the only sport I watch. I watch um, my college football team, and I guess I do watch the NFL, but other than that, it's soccer, soccer, soccer. And I never, never would have guessed that when I was 15, 16 years old.
Yeah. And you've also been abroad as well, right? You have worked in my neighbor country here of Denmark.
Yes, yes. I love Denmark. It was a great experience for us, for my family. Um, and a lot of the ideas that we had with the Cosmos in 2013, 14, 15, that we didn't get a chance to execute. Being in Denmark reinforced that those ideas were the right path, and seeing how clubs function and reinforcing the idea of not being just about professional soccer, but meaning more to the people in the region. Um, so bringing that home, I think has helped our execution very well.
Interesting. But it must be a big change for a family to move half across the world and to a completely new
Yeah,
country, culture, climate.
yeah, it was not our plan to come back as quickly as we did. Some still some bad feelings around that, but staying focused on the positive and trying to live in the moment. It was really important for my kids to have that experience. And for my youngest, she's actually quite good at languages now. And I think being there at 11 years old, being thrown in the deep end, having to learn a language, particularly a difficult one like Danish, really opened up her mind. So there's a lot of positive that I could take from it. And I did really, really enjoy getting ingrained in the footballing culture in Denmark. It was a wonderful experience.
Yeah, I understand that. I lived abroad for 5 years. I'm living in Sweden and then moved to Greece for a couple of years. So although it's not as long, like distance-wise, not so far, but you go into a new culture and you can learn a lot of things, not only the language, but
Yeah.
how, as you said, how you do things work-wise, but also, yeah, a lot of cultural things as well.
Yeah, and that's what's great about football, right? Is it tells you more than the game. It informs you about cities and history and culture and uh, Sweden and Greece is very different cultures. And being able to come together um, for a football match, but then in the process learn more about other cultures, I think is what's so great about the game, especially for American kids, because we're somewhat isolated and uh, um, absorbed by our own culture. But to play FIFA on, a video game and learn about Dubrovnik, Croatia, because you're playing the video game, you wouldn't have that otherwise. So, especially for American kids, I think, first of all, they love the sport. You walk around here, and I think it's like this around the globe. The lifestyle of soccer shirts is very much in our culture now, and I think it comes from having that more cosmopolitan look at the world.
Yeah, no, definitely. And soccer is such a global sport. I work in ice hockey, and that's, North American sport, Northern Europe, and that's it more or less. Russia. Um,
Mhm.
Otherwise, you're having like, some basketballs a little bit more widespread, but soccer is literally everywhere,
Yes,
every single country.
everywhere. And for many people, I mean, it's cliche and somewhat told tongue in cheek, but it is a religion in many cultures across the country. The identity for someone living in Scotland to be either Celtic or Rangers, I mean, it is as deep as religion, Catholic, Protestant. So uh, yeah, I think it's fantastic, and we need more of that perspective. Looking at having empathy and looking at things from a different point of view, and I think soccer gives you that.
Definitely. And you brought up a great point there when you mentioned Celtic and Rangers. You have said also that US soccer needs more rivalries. That
Yeah.
doesn't really exist at the moment. So how are you seeing that?
Uh, well, it does exist. So, it's sometimes a headline like that kind of kind of pigeonholes you and people want to argue with you. I know there's rivalries and the passion in the Pacific Northwest between Seattle and Portland is fantastic, and it's among the best in American sport and in global rivalries. So I know it exists, but we also do our sport from a very homogenous perspective, uniform perspective, and not just soccer. A lot of it looks the same, and culturally is the same, and the identity and the differences aren't accentuated. They're not highlighted. They're not promoted. Um, and I think we lose a lot in that. We do have, you can't manufacture rivalries in my mind. Normally, they get developed on the field or on the ice or on the court. It comes from that competition. But it was a very important lesson for me when I took over as managing director at the Red Bulls. Ivan Gazidis was the number two man at MLS, and I had just taken the job. And he said to me, and I will never forget it, and I think I've shared this story in the past, but he felt that MLS clubs at that time, of course, it was a long time ago, uh, really had no identity. The only one he pointed to that he felt had an identity was DC United. And now you would say DC United's sort of lost its identity in many ways over the last 10 to 15 years. Um, but that really stuck with me. And when I started to learn more and study the business across the world, I understood what he meant. He went to work as the chief executive at Arsenal, and there's a club that very clearly has its own identity. It knows who it is, and it speaks from that perspective all the time. And so I think that needs to happen more. But it is happening. Like I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of clubs, particularly in the USL, that have really defined themselves. They've been club first, not league first, and that works. And I think that's the way we should approach everything. We're trying to do that every day with the Cosmos. Um, and we see that as being the right way reinforced over and over again.
Yeah. There's been, as we mentioned, a really interesting time in soccer for sure, and there have been some um, big moments in terms of players. So I think David Beckham was one of the first one coming over from Europe, playing in MLS, and has done a lot for US soccer after he started playing as well. Obviously, Messi moving over soon. But you have been involved in bringing another international soccer legend over as well, right?
Yeah, actually, a few. Thierry Henry to Red Bull. Um, and yeah, Thierry's move to MLS was very important for the league at the time. And what Red Bull was doing with the construction of the stadium, I think really changed the trajectory of the league. Um, and having Thierry come over at that same time was very important. And he came over with the right attitude. Like he really wanted to be part of the American culture and to live in New York City and wanted to help build the team. So that was impressive to see up close. At the Cosmos, we brought over Marco Senna and Raul, a number of other big name players, but I think those two were extremely important. Marcos, for me, learning the sport just by watching him and understanding it better was very important to me. And it's actually informed some of our recruiting process with this team is knowing how important Marco was to the Cosmos when we were playing in Long Island. And then Raul too, again, came for the right reasons. Um, we had a really amazing year doing some incredible things. And the more those guys come in and can help you win, I think that's great. I don't like the knock on retirement leagues. Like, I don't think that's fair. If you can bring in a player that helps you win, that's all that matters, really, at the end of the day. Um, if that person also helps you sell shirts and raise awareness, all the better. And Beckham helped the Galaxy win. So did Ibrahimovic, on and on. The culture around Red Bull was MetroStar slash Red Bull was pretty poor before Thierry got there, and he helped change that. So I think those things are always good. And you can be AC Milan or Manchester United and do those things. And as long as it's also about winning, I'm all for it.
Yeah, for sure, I agree. And I think it's important what you said that it's not seen as a retirement league because all those, as you said, Zlatan and Beckham helped their teams significantly. They were, I mean, they had passed their peak. So now with Messi coming over, still arguably the best player in the world when he leaves, that's huge.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Thierry was still at his peak. He was only 32. He was definitely turning the corner. Don't get me wrong, but he was still only 32 and could have easily gone just about anywhere else to play and to start. He was on that Barcelona team that was maybe the best that ever lived and ever existed and won, was it 8 trophies in one season. Um, so he was still at his peak. And again, even if a player is at 80% of what they were, um, I've always argued you should play, if you're an athlete and you're a player, you should play as long as you can because you get old and fat and hurt and tired fast. And if you can keep that going, you should do that as long as you can. And yeah, the guys we've mentioned have been really, really important to the growth and sustainability of the sport in the US.
For sure. So how did you make that happen with, let's take Thierry Henry, for example? Is it like, picking up the phone, calling the agent, or how does that go down?
It was so overwhelming for me because I moved back from San Diego to New Jersey to be part of the group that built Red Bull Arena. My job was operations, and our managing director resigned rather abruptly after I moved back. And eventually I was promoted into his position. It took a while, and it was kind of a soft promotion. It was kind of, let's see how this guy does. Um, and it was a lot in a short amount of time. And the Red Bull was, before I got there, was thinking about, okay, who's going to be our designated player when the stadium opens? And Thierry was on that list, and he was near the top of that list. So for me, I was sitting in that big desk a few days, and Darren Dean called Thierry's agent. We've become friends and have remained friends. Um, but before I knew it, I was at the Four Seasons in Manhattan meeting Darren and having lunch and talking about Thierry coming over. Um, in a lot of ways, it just was the obvious thing to do for Red Bull, for the construction of the stadium, for the league, and because Thierry was so um, interested in doing it, so committed to the idea of doing it. There weren't many superstar players in the world at that time that would have checked those boxes for us.
What did he see in playing over in the US? Did he see that he wanted to help develop the game in US? Did he want to win more titles in different leagues, or what do you think motivated him to come over?
Everything. I think in having spoken to him personally a lot in the process, um, he had done it at the highest level for a long time, and the pressure of that, I think, was wearing on him. We had lunch one time, and he was complaining about how hard it was to play at Barcelona. Again, during the season where they won 8 trophies, if they weren't beating a team 5-0 and they were only winning 2-0, the home crowd would start whistling at them. And like that when you live your life like that from like 16, 17 and you're in that cauldron, that does wear on you. So he liked the anonymity of New York. Like, he could go to New York, be one of the most famous people in New York, in the world, and go to New York City and walk around and not be bothered. So for him personally, that was a big part of it. But he also loves the sport and wanted to be involved and wanted to give back and wanted to give kids and others the opportunities that he had. So the growth the growth of the club of Red Bull, and everything we're doing was very important to him too. Um, and you saw that when he retired, he went right into management, into coaching. Um, I think he'll at some point go back to that, but his love of the sport and trying to always make it better, not the sport necessarily, but the individuals in it, I think was important to him. And so as I said earlier, he was the perfect player at that moment in time. Um, and I think he did a fantastic job. It was a pivotal time in MLS during those 5 years, and he carried the flag with a couple other guys, but he carried the flag for a long time.
Yeah. Is it on CBS he is now? He's doing some TV work.
Yeah.
Uh,
So he's Champions League,
mm.
CBS, and their crew is extremely popular here in the United States. I think everybody loves watching the pregame, halftime, postgame, and he's a huge part of it. He has a great sense of humor that people get to see now as a pundit. Maybe he seems so angry as a player, uh, storming up and down the field and trying to rip your heart out. They get to see the other side of him in the studio.
Yeah, for sure. These they all four are great. And one thing that stuck with me when you mentioned here that his love for the game, they asked everyone on the desk there, what would they do if they weren't a footballer? And I think Michael Richards said model, something like that.
Of course.
And Thierry said, if I wasn't a professional footballer, I would be an amateur footballer. Just proving, his love for the game, that even if he wasn't getting paid what he have getting paid, he would still do the same thing.
Yes. Yeah. And I think he will always be fit and always be able to run out and play. And um, yeah, it's clearly deep into in his DNA, and it comes out. It would be hard to play for him as a player if he was the manager. He's super intense and super demanding. Um, but yeah, it's that's why he was such a success.
True. So if we bounce back to the Cosmos for a minute, thinking ahead, there we talked about the huge potential for soccer, and now with relegation, promotion, you have the opportunity to move up. Where do you see the short-term and long-term goals for the Cosmos?
I think they're very much the same. It has to be true and authentic to building a club. That will give us short-term success. It will also build the foundation for long-term success. We are hyper focused on these first 5 years and getting all of that built out and doing it the right way. Um, Having our front office be reflective of the community at large, having our roster do the same. Um, so that is essential and that will never change for us. And and it was that for us when we were playing in Long Island too. We just, in hindsight, we had little to no chance of long-term success with the way the leagues were structured with U.S. Soccer and Soccer United marketing. Um, but that was a very important learning process, to know how important that community engagement is and to stick with it at all times. Um, so that has to be our focus. And then really it's are we true to our word every day on helping the community? Are we doing the things and showing the way for others? That relentless cheerleader to try to make things better is, I think, really important in our culture right now. There's so much negativity. Uh, so we need to stay focused, be in the moment, and what are we doing today to make things better, make our club better, make lives better for our staff, to give players opportunities that they would not have had otherwise, to be aware of what their goals are, and all of that with the community at large. If we stay focused on that, I'm certain that the long-term success is there. Um, and then, of course, the last bit is this has to be commercially viable. This is not a charity, it's not a 501(c)(3). We have to be commercially successful. So everything we're doing does have a commercial um, point of view with it. So building out a membership where people feel loyalty and passion for our club also has a commercial benefit. And then when we're commercially successful, we could put that money back into the club, back into the community, and keep growing it. So those are the two, three things that we're focused on, and I think they all work in the short term, intermediate term, and long term.
Hmm. Do you think it's difficult to balance commercial growth with authenticity? That if you're growing a lot on the commercial side, that some might think that you're losing the authenticity.
Uh, you can, that absolutely can be a challenge. And there is in this sport, there is a ceiling. Like, you cannot uh, have this type of model and succeed at the highest level. And I'll give you some examples of why I know that's true. But I also think we make it harder than we need to. We if you keep it simple and stick to those ideals and have an investment group that actually has principles and sticks to what they claim they're about, which is exactly what we have, um, then I think you can have commercial success uh, up to a point in this sport. Uh, Maybe that long term will change in the United States where you could be the biggest, most successful club in the United States and still make money. But if you look at clubs that are authentic to these ideals, I'll come back to Germany again, because I think that league and those clubs are probably the best mix. But it's very hard for German clubs to they have the 50+1, they have the membership concept. They could still be profitable. Um, but I don't think you can win Champions League, certainly not be a consistent threat if you're making money. Most of the teams that are competing to win the trophy are losing money year over year. I think if they're honest with their books and they opened them up and showed you what's really happening, I don't think the biggest clubs in the world are making money. History has shown that a lot of their operating losses have been written off for one way or another. The Spanish government has bailed out Barcelona and Real Madrid in the past. The banks in Spain have done the same. And now you see organizations like Chelsea, like Manchester City. You just they they can't be making money with the money they're spending on players and how many players they have. And all of that, I believe, is chasing glory and winning a Champions League trophy. Um, so there's a long way of saying I don't know that Dortmund could ever win the Champions League. Um, it's just they can win any one game head to head, but over the course of a year, over the course of what is it, 36 games in the league, in the cup, in the Champions League, you just get worn down. You can't compete with clubs that are going two, three players deep at world class levels. Um, It's just too difficult. So I do think that the sport has problems at the top level. I do think there should be some way to rein that in a little bit. It's inherently unfair. The efforts to do it in the past have actually backfired. They've done the opposite. They've forced people that follow the rules to have a ceiling on them, and they've let the teams that don't follow the rules get away with it. So when you have that kind of system, it simply doesn't work. So I'd like to see that change somehow in global football, but I don't see that coming anytime soon.
No. And you mentioned City, and they have, I mean, Middle Eastern investments and their foreign investments that have helped them to spend this amount of money as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to look at City as an example, City Football Group. One way is that they're trying to build and expand their culture, their country, to diversify their investments. And in a lot of ways, you could say that's good. And there's also negatives to that. We all know what those are. It's been talked about a lot. And yeah, but they've City Football Group has set out to do what they've done, and they've succeeded at it. And there's been a lot of good that's come from it. I think the people in Manchester will tell you that their investment in Manchester has been massive and has been a huge economic uplift for the city. So they've done it with purpose. Uh, some would argue, I would argue, at the expense of football. That where things are now is too far out of line for for everybody to compete. Uh, but yeah, that's the way it is. And can FIFA, can UEFA, can all the other confederations come together in a way that helps level the playing field? We'll see.
We'll see for sure. I told you before we hit record here, I'd like to end on a networking question, but before we get there, what's your prediction for the World Cup?
I think Spain. Yeah, I think the European Championship a couple of years ago was a statement of intent. They look brilliant, and when you have a player like Yamal, um, that's just hard to account for. And that group seems to be in their prime, but the regular caster characters are all going to be there. Um, it's been a bit of a down decade for Brazil. So this might be the time where they surprise people a little bit. The expectations maybe aren't as high as they always are for them. So we'll see. Um, but yeah, for me, it's France, it's Spain, it's Germany. I'm like 80% German, so that's who I support. So I'm hoping that the Germans have been down a little bit as that their generation got older and they struggled to transition. Um, I hope they have a good tournament.
And what about the US?
Um, well, I think they have to get out of the group. With the expansion of this tournament, it's made the groups so easy for the big countries. There is no group of death. There's not a group that has three realistic quarterfinalists in it. Um, so they have to get out of the group. Um, and they have enough talent to win on a day, any given day and go further than that. But I don't see them as having a realistic chance of going to the final eight or certainly the last four. But you never know. That's what's beautiful about the sport. It's every goal is so massive, so it could just totally, out of nothing, totally turn the game on its head. So that's what makes it beautiful.
Definitely. I mentioned I lived in Greece for a few years, and they won the Euro in 2004. And I don't think that if you would have bet that before, you would probably make a pretty good bargain.
Yeah. Yeah, and Denmark won European Championship too.
Yeah.
In similar fashion. You know, they backed in or somebody, national team got replaced. But yeah, you never know, and that's what this sport gives you is you could be throttling someone and it still be 0-0, and then smash and grab, and you're going home, and the other team goes through. So yeah, we'll see, and I think it's going to be interesting to see the stadiums in different countries and how that vibe feels. I think playing in Mexico and Azteca is going to be very different than playing at MetLife Stadium. Um, so it's going to be interesting.
For sure, I will follow it in very much as well. So, back to the final question. If who from your network do you think would be a good guest on this show?
Oh boy. I wish I'd thought about this more while I was running my mouth nonstop. Ah, hmm. I don't want to give you the obvious answer, because Giuseppe Rossi, Baye, that's obvious. We're in this together. Let me think a little bit about it. Um, boy, okay, hopefully you can edit some of this out
Yeah, yeah, no worries.
as I'm rambling along.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, let me. Um, you know what? I can't give you a name,
yeah.
um, but I could come back to you with the right name. But what's happening in Boise is really fascinating to me in the USL. I don't know if you've seen this, but
No, I
they're
haven't.
a, yeah, they're an expansion team in USL League One, so they're
Mm.
coming in as we are. They've had a little more of a runway to get things going in Boise, but they're absolutely crushing it. I don't know. I think they're sold out for the entire season
Oh.
already. And interestingly enough, they're going to be in San Diego here at the same time at the same facility with us. Um, so I'll get to know some of them this week, hopefully. Um, but I think that's a really unique story. Is not a part of the United States that anyone would have put professional soccer on the map 20 years ago and say this is a hotbed for success. But those in the know that there were a lot of pieces there to make it work. Particularly, I believe, I might get this wrong, so hopefully people don't write into you and complain, but I believe there's a lot of uh, Spaniards that live in Boise from the Basque region. Um, so that subculture is very strong around football. And so in some ways, it made a whole lot of sense for a team to be successful there. But yeah, I don't know those things for sure. So I'd love to hear if you get somebody on, I'll definitely listen to the pod so I can hear how they made this work.
Yeah, that's a really interesting one. Thank you for that. Eric, thank you so much for taking the time to join Sports Management Podcast.
Thank you, Marcus. I enjoyed it.